playing this video, of course it had to mess up at the end. You'll see I had to join a bit on, but I pray to God this is happening. Come on, people, unite. Come on. Come on, please.
We're going to present to the Australian military behind us to be delivered to the Australian military brass. And it says, "We, the Australian people, formally seek the intervention of the Australian Defence Forces to protect us and save Australia from the current treasonous federal and state governments. Many Australians now comprehend the level of corruption they have been living under and have a sense of vulnerability, as our once magnificent nation is being deliberately weakened to potential attacks from foreign entities. There is no trust left in our governments to protect our people, our interests and our country. We request the following actions of the ADF. 1. That the military now act to protect the people of Australia and our country from enemies foreign and domestic. 2. That the military enter into a partnership with the Australian people to progress the attached log of necessary actions. These attached actions include removing all politicians of all levels of government, Australia, and establishing an executive committee until constitutional democratic elections can be held. Our forebears fought in many wars to assure future generations will be able to live in a democratic, financially stable and culturally rich country. We once again call on the Australian Defence Forces to act and save the people of Australia and our much-loved country. Yours faithfully, the people of Australia." The attachment says, "Thank you for your service to our beloved country. Vigil Inaugura, unite in white." When the government no longer follows the mandate of the people, it is the responsibility of the people to make their voices be heard. The Australia that our brave parents and grandparents fought and died for would no longer be recognized by them. It is as if their spilled blood counts for nothing. The Aussie way of life, as we all knew it, is disappearing before our eyes, and we turn to the courageous men and women of our defence forces. This is the clarion call for the ADF to help us get our country back. Peaceful, civil, non-compliant. Why are we here? Our fundamental democratic rights are being destroyed by elected and unelected officials, and Australians have had enough. The parliamentary, judiciary and law enforcement systems are failing to protect and defend Australian citizens from the overreach of all levels of government. Decisions made in our parliaments by sitting and former members have all but handed over our nation to international organizations such as the World Economic Forum, United Nations, World Health Organization, Trilateral Commission, to name a few. Why is this important? Our so-called leaders are kowtowing to international organizations heavily funded by private corporations whose key platforms include controlling the masses and reducing the population of the planet. By clever design, by our elected politicians and unelected bureaucrats, our manufacturing industry has all but collapsed. Many of our farms sold off to foreign interests. Our money supply artificially generated as the value of our dollar becomes more worthless as each day passes. The people of Australia never voted to go to war involving Russia and the Ukraine, potentially risking the lives of our brave defence forces. Australia has no business fighting wars in other people's countries, and the people want no part of it. When all else fails, they take you to war. Why now? The emergence of COVID-19 has brought much of the underhanded decision-making by our governments and corrupt politicians into the limelight. What was once hidden behind subterfuge is now in the open and becoming more obvious every day. There's no question that Australia's national security is under urgent threat. The collaboration between pharmaceutical companies, mainstream media, large corporations and our government is a threat to the safety and well-being of the Australian people. Who are we? We're ordinary Australians. We're mums and dads, grandpas and grandmas, brothers and sisters, friends and neighbours. Some of us came from far-flung corners of the globe to make this wonderful country our forever home. We do not represent political parties, activist groups or protest movements. We are standing on the shoulders of giants who came before us, such as Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King. Visionaries who changed the course of history with peaceful and thoughtful disobedience. What we share is a fundamental concern for Australia's future, such as that we feel compelled to do something about it. Many of us have never ever put our hands up for anything like this in their lives. We are peaceful, law-abiding Australians who do not want any trouble, but at the same time fear that doing nothing will spell the end of our freedoms and lead to total destruction of our country. Necessary actions. We are requesting the help of the Australian Defence Forces to oversee the following measures. 1. Remove all politicians and replace with temporary administrative arrangements to ensure continuity of day-to-day business. 2. Establish an executive committee until constitutional democratic elections can be held on the blockchain to ensure election integrity. Remove the Governor-General and all state governors. 4. Establish a military tribunal to oversee trials for treason. 5. Cooperate with international trials for crimes against humanity, including but not limited to A. Any individual or organization who colluded with the governments.
I'm just taking out those words at the moment, but everybody can read what it says. But anyway, I just thought it was the best thing to do.
B. Perpetrators of human trafficking, pedophilia, child sex trafficking, and satanic ritual abuse. This is what we're going to hand over up there to the people of to the Australian Defence Forces, and hopefully they will read for it. But maybe you might be with us. Stand and unite in white.